Thank you for joining me. As always, I'm your foul player, and you stepped into the foul play land. I'm doing this video to talk about largely about the first take interview that Anthony Joshua had this morning on ESPN in America. Also, too, I wanted to give proof of Anthony's status here in America as far as him being an unknown. They made I know when Eddie Hearn came to Times Square and he was asking random people regarding whether they knew who Deontay Wilder was. Most people didn't know who he was. I think in large part due to the fact that most people don't watch boxing here in America. It's just what it is. I mean, it's a sort of a dying sport from the peaks that it's had in the 80s and 90s and in the past, in the Muhammad Ali era, and even before that, the Jack Johnson era. So here in America, even though we've had huge boxers, the popularity of the sport isn't as big, so that translates into a lot of regular people, Joe Schmoes in the street, and not knowing who most boxers are. In fact, all boxers. I could make an argument that Canelo is the biggest boxer. No, actually, not an argument. Mayweather is the biggest boxer in the world. And here in America, I mean, people might know who he is, but it's not like he would stick out just due to his sheer size. But he's not comparable to another humongous athlete like LeBron or Derek Jeter here in the city, and that's not even a good comparison to make. Let's go with the biggest active boxer right now, who I make an argument that it's Canelo. Even though the ESPN First Take made a different argument than the one I'm contending, which I'll get to that in a few minutes. But Canelo could walk in New York City and most people ain't gonna know who he is off the rip. Eddie Hearn says that Anthony Joshua, gets mobbed everywhere he goes in the UK. That could be the case. I've seen Wilder go to the British Isles or the UK, whatever have you, and get mobbed as well. I mean, it's not by adoring fans, but still getting mobbed. I mean, boxing is a little bit bigger, or it has more fervor in the UK than it does here in America, and that's a great thing. We want more boxing markets. If there was a big Chinese boxer, I think that would be dope. If you can imagine what Pacquiao did, with Filipino boxing, imagine you had a humongous boxer from a huge country like China or Russia. You don't got those guys that stay at the top from these other countries, and I think that's a good thing for boxing as a whole. But anyhow, so the second part of my the video has to do with the fact that I have proof that Anthony Joshua is not a known commodity here in America. Well, first off, I'm gonna start with what I saw with the first take video. Most of what Anthony Joshua was doing was rehashing a lot of the same arguments that him and Eddie Hearn were making. More so Eddie Hearn was making in the past couple months, since a potential match with Deontay Wilder has come up. Same bullshit. We already had the April 13th date set, and that he has 4 belts, even though it's actually 3 belts, because most people only consider 3 belts. Nobody ever factors the IBO belt. Everybody always says the 4 belts, which Deontay Wilder, of course, happened to have one, if not the most important one. So it was rehashing a lot of the same old arguments. And a lot of it too, it's dumb shit. It's menial stuff that you would almost hear fans that are way biased or irrational in their love for Anthony Joshua that they would say. And it's like he's relegating to saying that now because he has to say anything. Because he's been like kind of on the low since the Wilder and Fury first fought. And here in America, I mean, if people sort of remember him post Klitschko, I think they probably thought that he would be fighting Wilder somewhere down the line, like shortly thereafter, and that hasn't happened. So in saying that, like a lot of his stock or a lot of his relevance here in America has largely dissipated. And I could say that same thing for the UK too. When you see like his lowering numbers as far as his pay-per-view buys, when you see lowering numbers as far as his tickets sold, where, you know, of course he wasn't able to sell out Wembley Stadium. So say what you will, but if you want to put numbers on things that are tangible, as far as pay-per-view buys and ticket sales, Anthony Joshua's numbers in the UK, because he hasn't made a foray into the American market, but those tangible numbers are diminishing in the UK. Excuse me. But he also mentioned the fact that he didn't want to fight Fury. And it's like more double talk. Like, I mean, like it's the same like stuff that you would hear like from fans on like these chat rooms or on the comments, you know, and I'm starting to get like some of them commenting on these videos that I'm doing now, and it's almost the same like shit where they like completely forget like one whole facet, and it's usually a really major facet of like these negotiations or of like what's transpired. It's almost like they do stuff for people that haven't been tuning in and that tune in once in a while, like so they could hear it and maybe try convincing them. But a lot of that was happening in this ESPN interview, and it's unfortunate because Anthony Joshua does have a little bit of a gift of gab. Maybe he was sent to some sort of a charm school along the way as far as part of his training, and because usually send broads to charm school, and like Anthony Joshua was acting like a straight broad, so I wouldn't dispute that notion. But he was going on for like 9 minutes, 10 minutes, a really long interview, not saying nothing. Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. Kellerman's a fucking airbag who's out of a job because HBO is now gone. According to Kellerman, Triple G and Kovalev were like the biggest things in boxing of the last decade. And now he's on ESPN First Take alongside Stephen A. Smith, who doesn't know shit about boxing, and who always tends to give softball questions to a lot of these boxers, particularly the ones that are close to the top of their fields. None of them were really giving them any like tough questions. If they both know boxing, I know Max Kellerman definitely knows boxing. They didn't bring up any facet of like where AJ and or Matchroom have stepped on these negotiations with Wilder. They just kept bringing up the fact that AJ is like the money man and like that AJ is bigger than Canelo, which I could see Max Kellerman doing that because he had Triple G's balls all the way down his throat a couple months ago, and now Canelo has beat Triple G twice, so maybe he feels a certain way. But so I mean, like they didn't and I was pissed off. I was hoping that they would at least bring up one little bit of like where Matchroom and Anthony Joshua failed in these negotiations, which they failed to do. And I wasn't really surprised. It was more like, you know, when you're watching it live, or which I didn't watch it live, I watched it on YouTube. You're almost like hoping that like it's gonna come out, and it just fucking, you know, they failed to do it, and I just felt like throwing my phone. But you know, had AJ, you know, and I also wanted to touch on because I've kind of known about like AJ like coming to the US for like, I think he landed on Monday, so it wasn't like I knew he was coming. It was like I heard he was here type deal, and it was maybe Monday, like I heard he was in New York. Not like, oh, I know people in New York that that fucking know where he is. Like, nah, None of that shit. Like I don't have connections like that. But I think online I had read that he was gonna be here in New York, and I think the first take, because ESPN has two studios, one in Greenwich and or New York, like which is Greenwich is like in Connecticut, which is in the East Coast, and they also have one in LA. Not sure where he did the this interview. I'm assuming that it was in LA because Stephen A. Smith is based out of New York, like because he does a radio show here in New York. But who the fuck knows? Don't give a shit. But I do know that Anthony Joshua was in New York this past Monday, 2 days ago. Yeah, or 3 days ago, whatever the fuck. But I also wanted to touch on and I think like he's doing that to like in an attempt to do some sort of U.S. campaign to keep his name relevant here in the stateside, like here in the U.S. And I mean, like, I'm pretty sure he had somewhat of an idea, and Matchroom had somewhat of an idea that this was coming, and this was something that they more than likely had to do in the near future, especially when they're on the outside of a Wilder and a Fury matchup. So I say that like in the sense that if what they came up with for Anthony Joshua to say in this Matchroom video was thought out over the span of 2 or 3 months, and that's the best thing they've come up with, it's basically, like I said, a rehash of the same shit that they've been saying for fucking months. So it's like how fugazi these guys are. They could have mentioned, I mean, if Deontay Wilder is truly at fault in not making this fight happen, which I know that not to be true, they could have brought up one facet of those arguments, and not just Anthony Joshua. They Max Kellerman could have brought it up, so that just shows you how much of a joke Anthony Joshua is, and how much of a joke fucking Max Kellerman is. I can't stand Max Kellerman. People used to give him a lot of credit, like because he liked black things, like hip hop and like, but this guy is like completely out of the game right now, and because he had like some know how of boxing, like I mean, if you have like so much rancor for fucking Malignaggi of like the stuff he's done lately, then you should have like just as much, if not more, for Kellerman, because Kellerman's been playing himself. I can't stand fucking Max Kellerman. Like he has that herpes on his mouth all the time. It's fucking disgusting. And then pairing him up with fucking Jim Lampley, I mean, didn't make it any better all these past couple years. I hope soon that he's unemployed because he's an asshole. But and the second thing I wanted to touch on was Anthony Joshua's not only his diminishing stock, which I've touched on in last videos, but more importantly, like I wanted to touch on the fact that he's not a known player here in the States. He's not a known commodity, and I think that would not have been the case had he fought Wilder, at least shortly after, like Klitschko, and I have proof of this, which I'm gonna put on the thumbnail of this video. But AJ, if he would have fought Wilder after the Klitschko fight, would have been the biggest thing in boxing. Or better yet, I say if he would have beat Wilder after he fought Klitschko, which he said, I mean, his promoter said he could have done in 3 rounds, which AJ makes it seem like it's an easy feat, like for him, and even though he's fighting a selection of bums like coming up here shortly. But had he been able to beat Wilder, had he been able to claim that like final belt that Wilder holds, AJ would have been the biggest thing in boxing, like bar none. Like he would have been a unified champion. He has the highest potential as far as his marketability goes, because he's a good-looking dude. He's well-spoken. He doesn't seem to have like any like skeletons in his closet in the past. He's not married. And those things are factors. I mean, like it or not, like I'm not a mo by any stretch of the imagination. I like women, but people tend to gravitate towards like these dudes that are like, presentable, that are good looking. Like, I mean, I think I'm siding with Wilder in these because AJ is such a bitch. But could Wilder have been more marketable or a bigger sell than AJ? Absolutely not. Could Fury have been a bigger sell or as marketable as AJ? No way in hell. I mean, like, AJ has a good chunk of the UK market, or had a good chunk of the UK market, all to himself. Had he beat Wilder, I mean, a lot of Americans don't get behind these Black American fighters as is, and that was also the case with Wilder. A lot of people, you say what you want about the LDBC, and the LDBC, I won't bullshit you, is largely American, and it's largely like African American, but these cats that are in the LDBC are not like patriots like that. And I'm not a fucking like patriot in that sense either. Like, just because I'm wearing this fucking shirt, like, it's a polo thing. Like, polo makes a lot of stuff with Americana on it. But a lot of the guys in the LDBC post Klitschko were actually behind Anthony Joshua. And this was not like long ago. I mean, he just fought fucking Klitschko a couple years ago. Most of them, I'm not saying that they were saying that Wilder was a piece of shit and that Anthony Joshua was the best thing since sliced bread. No, but they were rooting for Joshua, including me, because of his potential, of where he could be in the in this boxing landscape, where he could bring the sport to. Because he's younger than like the people that he could have faced. Because he had this big match with Klitschko. Because he probably could have had just as big matches here in America had he fought Wilder. Like, everybody thought that the natural progression of events after he fought Klitschko was that he was going to fight the top heavyweights. Most people don't know who the other top heavyweights are besides Fury and Wilder, and here in America more so Wilder. So when you fight Klitschko and then you unify or get all these belts that were left behind by Fury because of drug use or failed test, naturally people expected AJ to fight Wilder. That didn't happen, and he's shooting himself in the foot with that. I mean, I think it was a horrible mistake, because win or lose, that would have been that could have been a 3P fight. Win or lose, he still could have fought Fury. That would have been a pay-per-view fight here in America had he fought Fury. They could have fought in Vegas, too. But those fights, if AJ's this big star that could carry any heavyweight, I mean, like, if you look at what Wilder and Fury just made on their pay-per-views, I mean, where they're splitting just with pay-per-views between 15 and between 13 to 20-something million a piece on the pay-per-views alone. I mean, like, how much would and Anthony Joshua is quote unquote such a bigger star than both of them, then how much pay-per-views would they have sold fighting one of those two guys? But now Anthony Joshua is on the outside looking in, and if this was his first strike at trying to get back into the American landscape, as far as people talking about him, I think it was a huge fail. I mean, like, because that's the best nuggets he had. Like, we've been hearing the same bullshit and the same lies for months already. And I mean, like, the people that have been in the know and that actually watch boxing and that follow these things have largely come to the conclusion that it's Anthony Joshua that has stopped these negotiations from happening. And I'm not even blaming Matchroom as much anymore, because Anthony Joshua's level of cowardice, like, I mean, like, it's now it's like palpable. Like, you could see it. Like, he's using a lot of these like arguments that fucking that a biased fan would use. I mean, it's or that Eddie Hearn was using, like, which were shown to be lies. I mean, like, I think people that like Anthony Joshua and that like Eddie Hearn, like, fucking, which only exists on the internet because people boo Eddie Hearn at every fight. Even those people though, like, could conclude that Eddie Hearn was bullshitting, and now it seems like Anthony Joshua, who doesn't get out there like as much as Eddie Hearn does, like to speak, is using the same script that Eddie Hearn was using. Um, so I mean, like he was also trying to sell like the fight in April 13th that he made that for that date for Wilder, not mentioning the fact that that whole thing like with the Wembley dates happened months before September, and he had a fight coming up in September, which was nowhere near close to being made. Yet he still chose to fight Povetkin for no reason. I mean, like for a supposed mandatory with the WBA. If that was the case, and you really wanted to fight Wilder, he could have just dropped that belt. But that's already passed, I guess. But his next fights, everybody knows are with Usyk or Dillian White. Who the fuck cares? Supposedly he's coming to be ringside as the other leg of his American tour, to be ringside for Rocky Fielding and the Canelo matchup. Like, who gives a fuck? If you had any intention on fighting Wilder, like, I don't care if like the negotiations were nowhere near to being made. Shouldn't I have been like at the Wilder fight, like with Fury? It makes no sense. And now he's calling out, or they're calling out a matchroom, Fury or Wilder, seemingly. Even though he mentioned only Wilder in his video, I think that was done strategically. But if those are your two next most viable opponents, and they're fighting each other, I mean, it would have been like due diligence to be ringside. He's nowhere near like the ring because he had like other appointments like that he had to attend to. Bullshit. But he's gonna be ringside for a Rocky Fielding Canelo fight that nobody gives a shit about. Big Baby supposedly is planning on pulling up on Anthony Joshua, so I'm pretty sure you could expect that fight as either 1, 2, or number 3 of Anthony Joshua's next fights, and that's not to include Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury. So Anthony Joshua's stock here in America, the biggest media market in the whole world, is at a big zero. It's at a big clunker. Like, and I've mentioned this in the past, but going back to like when Eddie Hearn made the rounds and was asking people if they knew who Deontay Wilder was, that was done in Times Square, like, which is like a tourist trap. Like, nobody, like, people that go there are usually fucking distressed and pissed off. It's fucking nasty. I never go to Times Square as a New Yorker, like, fucking, and I wouldn't advise you, even if you're a tourist, to go. But he was asking random people, like, if they knew who Deontay Wilder was. Didn't ask them if they knew who Anthony Joshua was. But he makes it seem like Anthony Joshua can't like go out in public, that he's Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan and Jesus Christ all in this one package. And he makes it seem as if with these negotiations that he doesn't need an American market, that they could just keep doing the British thing and just get by on that. Like, they make it seem like no matter who we fight, like, I mean, when you talk like that, it's almost like you're portraying yourself as when you finally do come to the American market, regardless of who you fight, it's going to be a big event similar to like what they are in the UK, or as if you're already known here in America. But Anthony Joshua is an unknown in the United States. I mean, the only people who would probably try to contend that are these matchroom fucking computer generated fans that they have online in these comment sections, or by Eddie Hearn. But I could tell you that he's not known in the United States. But I could also show you a picture that he posted up on Facebook this Monday, in which he was in Central Park. A lot of you people may know or have heard the name mentioned of Central Park. But Central Park is actually in Manhattan, the busiest borough of New York City. It's probably the most famous park in the world. He was in one of the busiest parts of Central Park, which is by the main fountain, He's taking a picture there, and you don't see people mobbing him. And it's not like you could jump out of a car and jump right into that part of the park. It's actually quite a ways away. I mean, like, if I had to put it, it's probably like a quarter of a mile from you getting out of any vehicle and walking to that point in the park. It's probably closer to a half mile. So it's not like you jump out and you're like right there on the fountain. You know, it's quite a ways away. But you know, he had pictures there, and you could see people within the vicinity or in the background, but they weren't mobbing fucking Anthony Joshua. So you know, I don't need to show any further proof. Joshua's an unknown in the United States and this is at its core level. He's an unknown here in the U.S., and that may likely not change because he's not going to be fighting Tyson Fury. He's not going to be fighting Wilder, more likely than not, if they have a rematch and if they have a trilogy. It's also going to be him on the outside looking in with these two guys. They're going to continue to bash him every step of the way or wherever they could. He's going to be perpetrating the same stuff that he said on First Take, which if you did a little bit of investigating, you could see is bullshit. People are going to start seeing that more and more that Anthony Joshua has been the culprit in this fight between him and Wilder not being made. Now, I'm enjoying every minute of it, quite frankly, because when the way they were carrying themselves a couple months ago was as if Wilder and Fury had to come to their knees, beg for a fight and take a shitty flat fee to fight them. And now that's changed completely. And I know at the end of the day, Anthony Joshua really doesn't want to fight Wilder. I mean, these negotiations, showed it, and now Anthony Joshua's actually showing it, in the way he's saying that he's not going to offer Wilder 40 or 50% for fighting him today. He said that in the ESPN First Take interview, which I wish I would have mentioned in the first part of the video, but fuck it, I am now. But nobody talks like that. I mean, like, if you really wanted to fight Wilder and you really want to get that belt, why would you mention the whole 40 to 50% thing that Wilder's not gonna get? It's ridiculous. It's more like fucking fake news, political bullshit, rash statements, bait to give something to chew upon, for people that don't really know this sport, and so you don't look like a total bitch in the face of your fans. And it's funny too because people weren't really commenting on my shit. I had a few positive comments, but mostly it was negative. And literally as of yesterday and today, it seems like since Anthony Joshua touched stateside, that the fucking the Mongs have been on online full force. Maybe Eddie Hearn put a couple notes in their PayPal and put these people who are so rabid Anthony Joshua fans that couldn't show up to his last Wembley event and sell that out, or that are not buying his pay-per-views like they were in the past. So I mean, it's funny how these things are working out, and I'm enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it very much. I wish the worst for Anthony Joshua. I hope he gets beat up in his next fight. I hope it's Dillian White to do it. They could run that back and cap himself out at making, at best $25 million a fight for the rest of his career, at best. So kudos to you and kudos to Matchroom for doing such a bang up job at promoting this facade that's Anthony Joshua. And I'd like to thank all of you who have viewed this video. I hope you like and subscribe. Shout out to the boxing community. Shout out to the new media. And shout out to the almighty LDBC. Peace.